All right, so we join our daring heroes on the planet Earth, that blue marble hanging in the black void of infinity, and a shadow looms out of that darkness, grasping forward towards our precious and delicate planet. But before the nature of the threat is revealed, let us go to our heroes. Rave, Psychol, what are your characters doing in their everyday life before the threat is revealed to them and the world?
Don't everybody all go at once.
Psychol, I see you volunteered. What is your character doing in his everyday life? Just going about his business. The call has not yet come to action. So what kind of illustrates the character's life? Are they working a desk job? Are they out chasing leads as a boy reporter? Are they gaming out, smoking some weed, playing some Call of Duty, whatever gamers do? I don't know, because I don't play video games. What is your character doing though in his everyday life? What kind of
because Psychol struggles every day with the need to make level-headed choices, it's not always easy getting along with coworkers, colleagues, and holding down a secure job. Psychol's kind of a jack of all trades at this point, bouncing from one job to another, even working as in a temp agency, developing skills in the workforce. But at the end of it all, ultimately, people don't like Psychol. People generally will accept Psychol's help for a couple of days here and there, but then there's always some sort of issue that comes up on either the employer or Psychol's end. So Psychol just kind of bounces around, barely gets by, and barely has enough money to pay rent.
All right. So I'm almost imagining maybe Psychol has been put into like some kind of call center. He's on the phones talking to people all day, helping them with their billing. Maybe for like a barbecue company. You make barbecues at your company, and when things mess up, they call and they get you on the phone.
I'm pretty sure Psychol would probably die in one of those types of environments.
Exactly.
Yeah, it would probably set Psychol off quite often.
I'm thinking maybe you've been like called in to human resources, and the HR rep is telling you, now, and what is your character's real name actually, Psychol?
Let's go with Ben. Last name Zoate.
Ben Zoate. All right. I'm imagining this is clearly a fake name, but HR doesn't know that. So HR is, telling you now, Ben, you're a nice young man. We all know this, but gosh darn it, you just have to be a little friendlier with people. And I'm imagining Ben like sitting behind the HR desk in this uncomfortable chair, kind of fidgeting, and she is telling him that he has to learn to be nice even when people aren't so nice to him. And she's saying it in a very nice manner, but she's certainly not being encouraging towards his continued sanity and mental health. So how might Ben be reacting to that?
Ben's having a good day today.
All right.
Ben's having a good day. The anxiety levels are kind of moderate, so I'm going to say, you know what? I apologize. I'm sorry. I'll make sure I work on improving that.
Now, Ben, I'm so glad to hear you say that, because I knew that you could improve, that you can be an asset to this team. But unfortunately, we will have to dock you for poor performance there. Yeah, so you'll just see that on your next paycheck.
All right.
So it's, maybe the vein in his head is starting to throb, and he's starting to get a little cranky. But we'll cut away. We'll cut away from Ben. Rave, what is Rave doing in his everyday life? Is he cleaning up after the club? Is he getting ready for the next set? Or maybe this is a nighttime and he's in the middle of DJing. Or does he have something else he's doing? What is Rave doing?
Rave is scoping out his next squat, because it is a rave after all. So you can't really be cleaning up a place that you haven't figured out where you're performing next, let alone making sure that the people who own the building don't know you're about to do a big performance.
So what does the site that you're looking at look like? Is it like an abandoned warehouse or an old steel mill? Or is it an actual concert event center?
Well, probably this time he would be looking for something a little bit more low-key. The last time the neighbors really complained. Something about, a good 100, 200 decibels coming out of the place might cause some problems. So right now he's probably looking on the waterfront at a warehouse that does a large amount of in and out.
Maybe he's getting a boat, like a big shipping container boat. He's going to have a rave on the water.
Interesting.
Yeah, shoot the lasers off on the surface of the water and just drive it out into the harbor, and oons, 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 just echoing through the whole bay.
You like getting me in trouble. I know that.
Oh, yeah. So I'd imagine Rave talking to, like, the harbor master and this crusty old sailor dude, and he's like, you want to use my boat for what? And Rave, what's the story that Rave is telling him? Is it like, oh, just a pleasure cruise at night?
Oh, what we want to do is mainly it's a reception to a big event.
He like looks at his boat. It's not the nicest boat in the world. and he's scratching his head. He's a little bit confused.
There's something to be said for size.
So maybe we'll just leave you right there with the confused sea captain, and he likes money, so he will agree, but he knows something is going on.
That probably I would be going to one of the ones that are more of the mutant smugglers. Especially
I think they'd be less likely to put up with your bullshit than a stranger, because you can just lie to a stranger.
I didn't lie. It is an event.
Well, you can obfuscate to a stranger.
I figured the smuggler would be more willing to deal with mutants and not give a shit as long as their cash is green, but we'll go with whatever we find.
Okay. So Rave is perhaps then weighing his options. But as this is happening, down on planet Earth, a threat looms from outside. Somewhere in a NASA control room, technicians are running around. They're tracking a radar blip. Something has come in from outside the solar system, from beyond Neptune, and with amazing speed has come forward into Earth orbit. And the technicians are scrambling. They're making phone calls. They're not sure what to do, and they're watching the radar blip as it's circling the Earth, as it's in its orbit, and they see tiny pieces begin to break off and fall down into the atmosphere. So we'll cut back. Rave and Psychol, basically these meteors are coming down. There's a small meteor bombardment going on. How does Psychol and Rave hear about this? Do they hear about it on the news? Does Psychol have a psychic alert? Or do they have some other avenues of intelligence?
Psychol hears about it through mental chatter going on. People in the call center have been surfing on websites that they probably shouldn't be during work hours, and people are emailing and thinking about it, messaging their friends and relatives and stuff like that, concerned about the news.
Perfect. So Psychol is sitting there. Ben, getting reprimanded by HR, having his pay docked, and in the back of his head, he can hear the fear, the confusion, the apprehension. Maybe if he's got a long enough range, he can get some pain from some of those sites where these meteors have crashed. People are hurt. So in the back of his head, he's got this alert now blaring. It's getting louder and louder and louder as there's more panic and more fear, more confusion. Meanwhile, the HR rep just keeps rambling on and on and on about proper procedures, and we have to have soft skills and focus on a customer experience. And she's just droning on and on. And meanwhile, there's this emergency developing. How does Psychol extricate himself from this HR meeting?
I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to stop you there. I've been having some problems. I'm not gonna get into details about it, but I'm gonna have to excuse myself from this conversation and retreat to the restroom, please.
All right, so you just like stand up as you're talking, I'm imagining, and just walk out of the room, back out of the room.
I back out. Yeah, I back right out of the room. I don't even let them finish or acknowledge that I'm telling them this. I'm letting myself out. And then as I let myself out, because I'm working temp jobs and because I really am starting to feel a little bit cornered here, I know that I'm getting docked some pay. I don't even make it a secret to let everyone else see me as I duck out of the. I don't use any powers to hide the fact that I'm actually leaving. I just walk out.
All right. And what does Psychol's transformation sequence look like, if any? Do you have a costume, or do you just fly around in jeans and a t-shirt, or what?
Hey, I know that's a jab there.
It's not a jab. I love Superboy. I love the jeans and a t-shirt look.
Well, he's got a tie or two though. I've seen him wear a super suit.
Sure.
And yes, as far as the garb, for the most part, I have the top on underneath, but I have the rest of it.
Forgot to put your tights on.
So I gotta remove the restricting pants. But I think from time to time, if I use some sort of some abilities there to kind of shield people's perceptions of me, I can kind of hide myself from being able to change out in public, and no one will bat an eye.
Absolutely. So what does it look like? You're just walking out into the street and pulling your clothes off?
Yeah. Just without even thinking twice about it, I kind of cloak, like a mental cloak, so that I don't even exist to others. And as I'm walking, I'm struggling, trying to take my pants off so that I can put on the tights and don a hood as well. My outfit, because I think it signifies perfectly what I am. It's both light and dark gray in color. I don't have an insignia. I have a light and dark color outfit, and that's about it.
All right, perfect. So Psychol is the Gray Guardian then. Got to get as many cheesy nicknames as possible.
Perfect.
And what about the man with kaleidoscope eyes? What about Rave?
With that, I'm assuming that Rave has started to hear the worldwide chatter.
How does Rave
communication
hear?
bands?
How does Rave hear about these meteor strikes? Or does he see one? Maybe one happens near to him. Or maybe he has intelligence gathering. You tell me.
Well, Rave has the ability to kind of just hear radio.
Perfect.
And as the signals are going around, he kind of starts to realize something really weird is coming along. And he looks at the gentleman he's trying to negotiate the book deal on. Sir, I thank you for your time. Why don't you get a hold of me? And he gives a phone number that doesn't exist. The phone number that doesn't exist will no longer exists. It will literally go to Rave.
Mm-hmm.
And he's off.
All right. And what does his transformation sequence look like, if any?
He is in a pair of black skinny jeans.
Skinny jeans.
That is a size too small. And the picture that I'm projecting as my cover picture for this right now is pretty accurate, except less scruff.
All right, so you got the blonde hair, the white vest, black t-shirt, black skinny jeans. And does Rave, can he fly, or does he turn into a living laser and just blast away as a light beam? Or
it depends on his mood, and he's feeling a little flashy. So he slowly starts to dissolve into energy. I have energy, form, sound, or light. So
perfect.
and it kind of solves the identity problem.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And he's off.
All right. So Psychol,
a whirling spectrum being type thing. Yeah, well, who knows?
all right. so Psychol, you have this telepathic chatter. Rave, you can hear the radio waves. So you're both getting a lot of information as you're springing into action. It seems like there are these meteorites, these huge meteors are crashing to the Earth. Do you guys require any kind of intelligence test to sort through all of this chatter, or you just get the full spectrum at once?
I'd say that's more up to you than me.
Well, it depends on how powerful you are and how your abilities work. So it's whatever you guys want.
Well, I have an environmental control of 12, and that's how I would be picking up the radio signals. So it's more up to you on what you think a 12 does. Because I'm not really sure.
Yeah. Well, you can get the raw information, but it's sorting through it that I'm asking about. Can you pick out individual pieces of information from that very easily, or is there so much chatter that it's hard to do that?
It would be more like switching channels on a radio. He can kind of get a static, but he can kind of focus in.
Okay, that's pretty good.
But there's still background static constantly going.
Yeah. What about you, Psychol?
I was gonna liken it the same way as well. Very similar. Always got banter going on at all times. Being in large crowds is usually pretty overwhelming. But since I'm affected by the area, for my character, Psychol just hears what people are thinking or what they're observing when they're during their daily lives on their cell phones and searching the internet and seeing what's hot and trendy. So I hear everything that's going on within a certain radius.
Sounds good. So it sounds like you're both able to filter through that information pretty easily. So I don't think you need to make any kind of tests to get all the information that's available. So you're both able to learn pretty quickly that these meteors are not like a meteor shower, but it seems like there is some kind of large spacecraft that's arrived in orbit from deep space. It came in so fast that there was no warning until it was already here. And it is firing these meteors, projectiles, but they're not exploding on impact, and they're quite large. They're the size of a house, a large house or a small office building. They're not burning up on entry. They're just crashing to the ground. So you know there's a spaceship up above of some kind. There's not a lot of info on it that's known right now, but there's also these meteor impact sites. They're not being targeted, it doesn't seem, towards any populated area. They're just coming down every 500 miles or so. One has landed in the ocean. One of them has landed in Ghana, Africa. One has landed in the Sahara, and so on and so on. It's just spreading these things out. The one in Ghana has gone down near a populated area, and some people have been hurt and are in danger. But what do you guys do? Where do you go?
Ray would probably go towards the threat rather than the effect at the moment, because picking up the pieces is great, but if more pieces are breaking away, it doesn't help.
All right, so Rave's heading up into space towards the mothership. Psych Hall, are you thinking the same thing?
I was thinking of investigating the most immediate location of one.
Mm-hmm. So what do you guys think to coordinate your characters, though? Do you want to go split screen, or do you want to bring the party together? We can do either. They're both good.
Well, unless there's a way that we somehow have a chance encounter along the way, I'm gonna stay split.
Okay. Does that sound good to you, Rave?
It's fine by me.
Okay, perfect. So, Rave, this evanescence of light projecting himself photonically up out of the atmosphere, that blue sky turning into the black star-speckled abyss of deep space, and then flying over the curvature of the Earth. And you can see the mothership looming up ahead. So are there any kind of preparations? What's Rave's emotional state as he's flying forward? Is he
able to do the whole Green Lantern idea of creating a force field around me as an air bubble?
Mm-hmm. And is it unusual?
I'm assuming that I'm incorporeal, but that doesn't mean I can't that I don't breathe.
Fair.
Or it depends on your interpretation of that.
I always leave it up to you. It's your character. Whatever you can do, do.
I would say if you're incorporeal, you can't breathe anyway.
That's good. And what's Rave's emotional state? Is he used to going out to space? Is this like casual, or is he like, wow, I'm in space? This is pretty awesome.
He's thinking, this is pretty trippy, but I gotta keep doing what I'm doing.
Okay, so he's trying to stay focused and on task.
But every once in a while, he does do the score.
So Brave, as you're flying forward, you could see this ship. And as you get closer, it seems to be like fluctuating, like you're not sure if it's breaking apart. And then as you near it, you realize it's just moving. It's like writhing. It's not a solid structure. It's something a little bit more organic. You see it. It's almost reminds you of like a cross between a squid and maybe like a beetle that has the long projecting mandibles, like a stag beetle. It's like a central mass with these four long projecting arms or mandibles coming forward from that. And it's all glistening like it's made out of a shiny chitin, like a beetle shell. As you're coming closer, you can see that it's segmented. It's broken up into these huge plates of chitin or chitin, depending on your pronunciation. And there are orifices over the surface, like mouths or sphincters, or I think you see a giant eyeball open and like look over towards you. And the whole surface of the thing is crawling with these smaller creatures, these kind of centipede-like, tentacled aliens that are just crawling all over the surface of the thing, looking around. Some of them are smaller, some of them are larger. Most of them are about the size of an elephant, though, and they look tiny on the vast bulk of this central ship or structure. And as you're flying towards it, you see one of the orifices in the bottom of the ship, the side facing the earth, opens, and it like squirts or oozes out this projectile that's falling forward. It looks like a cross between a giant seed and a piece of coral. It's porous, and it's all covered in a mucousy slime. It's moving with huge speed down into the atmosphere. So what's Rave's initial reaction to this?
I've seen enough hentai to know where this is going.
Okay. With that, Rave's first instinct would most likely to use energy construct or his force field to stop it from landing if I think I can.
Perfect.
This is probably going to be a little stronger. It's got an impervious 10. Mm-hmm. Do I think that it would be strong enough before it gets too close to the gray wall?
You think that you could, but you'll have to make a power test. So roll a d20 and add 20 because your force field is power level 20. So it's a badass force field, but this is a big office building sized seed pod that is being spat out.
That would be a 33.
So you're just able to halt its movement. So describe what that looks like. What do you do with this office-sized coral crystal structure?
With that, I'm creating the field and using the energy construct together and basically trying to bat it away.
Are you throwing it into deep space or back at the ship or into the sun or where?
We'll go ahead and make it go home. We'll make it go back where it came from.
Okay. And I'm thinking, should that be another force field test? I think it's the only relevant power. So make another force field test to throw this thing. We're basically treating the force field as like a move object at this point, but that's fine.
Well, I do have move object if you want me to do that too.
Oh.
Although it's not nearly as strong because that's a much more expensive power.
Oh, I see it. I didn't see it. Yeah, so make a move object test instead then.
That would be a 24.
24, you're able to move it because you're in zero gravity, microgravity. but you're not able to give it a lot of velocity. So you've sent it flying back towards the mothership, probably not fast enough to do much damage when it gets there, but it's going to get there.
Well, that was the main goal.
Yeah. So yeah, again, this crystalline, coral-like seed pod thing, all covered in mucus and slime and ooze, flies back towards the mothership and smashes into the side, not quite hard enough to do damage to either structure. And you can really realize the huge scale of the mothership, because this office building sized construct is just like a tiny pipple hanging onto the side of this huge mandibled squid ship.
Okay. I'm going to use my communication environmental control
All right.
to hack a NASA satellite and project down to NASA the images of what I'm seeing.
Perfect. I don't think that you need to make a roll for that. I think that that should be pretty easy for Rave. But with that, let's cut over to Psychol. So Psychol, you said you were heading towards the one that landed in the ocean or the one that landed in Ghana. Which one do you think?
Whichever one would probably put me the closest. I have psychic levitation, so I would levitate myself at 60 miles per hour towards the closest one that I could get to.
Right. So if you're in North America, then the closest one is out in the Atlantic Ocean. So
okay.
You're heading towards Africa, using your psychic power to home in on it. You could see this huge floating mass in the distance, and a bunch of boats have come to investigate. They've been sent. They're military boats. You see there's a cruiser and maybe like two smaller destroyer type vessels. You think they've been sent from the Ghana Navy, because we're not tremendously far off the coast of Africa. Several hundred miles, but they were the closest ones in the area, so they're coming to investigate. And you can see this office-sized, again, coral-like, it looks almost like a tumbleweed made out of coral or chitin. And there's this horrible, stinking ooze all over it and spreading out into the ocean. This green, yellow, viscous slime. And because you're not in space, so you get to smell it, and it smells bad. It smells like rotting eggs or decomposing vegetation. It's quite horrific assault on your nostrils. Well, what is your reaction as you're flying forward towards this thing?
I think to myself, wow, it smells like burnt hair in a burning diaper.
That's exactly what it smells like.
That's the smell of desire, my lady.
Yeah.
I take the possible anomaly here very seriously, but I like to correct the occasional joke to keep things a little lighthearted, so that I maintain a nice balance on my own mind here. If there's ships there, I probably want to protect myself. I'd like to raise a telekinetic field for added protection in case anyone does start going on the offensive. And I'd like to see if I can get in close to the substance and possibly obtain a sample.
Sounds good. So you're
to
flying
investigate it.
forward. You've activated your powers, and let me get you to make a willpower roll as you're activating your powers. So roll a d20, and your willpower, I believe, is 14. So add 14 onto the result of that d20.
Okay, I rolled an 18 and 14. So that's 32.
Excellent. So that's a super heroic success. So as you've turned your powers on, your mental awareness has also activated. You can sense any sapient being, any human being or sapient alien, maybe even sentient animals. I'm not sure if you can do that or not. But as you're, digging into your power supply, you're opening your mind up to the universe more. You're expecting the minds on board those ships, the African sailors. You're expecting that. But what you might not be expecting is coming from that floating coral tumbleweed. There's a definite sapient presence. There's a mind at work, but it's a strange alien intelligence. It's a sprawling, unfocused, fractured, multifaceted intellect. So because of your willpower save, you're straight with it, but it occurs to you that probing this thing or mind melding with it would be threatening to your sanity at the least. But it is sapient, whatever it is. And you said then that you were flying forward, you're raising your shield, and you're going to try to get a sample of the ooze. Is that right?
Yes, that would have been the first thought in my head until noticing that there was some form of intelligence or some semblance of intelligence before attempting to collect any samples. My thoughts would then go to attempting to communicate to see if there is any response.
Okay, perfect. So before you do that, I think we'll probably cut back to Rave up in orbit.
All right.
So Rave, you've sent this information down to NASA, hacked into their satellite. As you're doing that, the mothership has noticed you. You've thrown its seed pod back at it. It's not very happy about this. And the entire creature turns in space. And those huge mandibles are reaching towards you. And each one of them is the size of a skyscraper, easily. They would, in fact, dwarf most skyscrapers. And where they all meet, there's this enormous beak-like mouth. It's almost like a cross between the mouth of a squid and the mouth of a lamprey. You can imagine a whole bunch of beaks surrounding this huge pit-like mouth lined with huge teeth. And it's flying towards you as if it's trying to eat you. Now, it's so slow and clumsy, you don't even need to roll to avoid that. But clearly it doesn't realize how fast you are. But you've definitely got a sense now that you've pissed this thing off. You've got its attention. What do you do next, Rave?
Psychol would probably hear the polite version of TWF. And Rave would probably start to head back to the planet because he doesn't think he's got enough to handle this by himself.
All right,
He may be boastful, but a spaceman that can survive in space, have whatever critters are crawling through it, and throwing off meteor-sized seeds of whatever you want to call that.
All right, so Rave's heading back into the atmosphere. Now, are you heading to hook up with Psychol? You're definitely getting radio chatter. The Ghana military is broadcasting back. They have footage. They see Psychol flying forward. So someone is responding to this threat besides you. do you go to hook up with him, or what do you do?
I would probably first try calling the team I was assigned with from your previous game and get a busy signal, which is never fun. Hate to get busy signals. And then finally end up flying down to his general area, thinking a unlikely friendship is better than seeing that do what it wants.
All right, sounds good. So we'll cut back then to Psychol. The Rave, you can inject yourself in the scene whenever you want. You can decide when you arrive on the scene, okay? So Psychol...
I'd probably say he probably heard that message, because that was mental communication.
Absolutely. So Psychol, you said you're trying to make psychic contact with the intelligence in this tumbleweed of ooze?
Yes, so Psychol is attempting to see if there is some sort of almost like a psychic ping, just try to get a feel for whether or not there is, if I'm dealing with an actual life form.
Sounds good. So make a telepathy test. So it looks like you have mind reading 5. So roll a d20 and add 5 to that.
20, 15 plus 5.
All right. So with a 20, so I'm going to get you to make now another willpower test, because you're able to make contact, but as I said, it's extremely alien and damaging to your sanity to make contact, at least at the level that you were able to achieve.
That was plus 14?
Yes, sir.
I rolled a 7 plus 14, so that's 21.
All right. So you're able to make surface contact with this intelligence. So you're able to sense basically more so like empathy than real mind reading. You're pretty sure there's a mind to read, but you're having a lot of trouble penetrating it. So you can sense the feeling, and the feeling is hunger, and it's almost like a horny, lustful feeling as well. Like it wants to spread and grow and devour and then grow some more, and propagate itself.
Oh, we are being pollinated.
Maybe pollinating the earth, in fact. And I'll just mention as well, again, it's so alien, this intelligence. It's like it's a kind of a hive mind almost. With the willpower that you rolled, you're fine. You're able to keep it isolated, and your sanity is not affected. But again, every time you make contact with its mind, there's that risk of sanity slippage, of becoming subverted by the hive, or infected by it, or just driven mad by its existence.
All right.
So now it's with your amount of willpower, you'd have to roll pretty poorly for any of that to happen, but it is a danger. So you feel fairly confident in your ability to resist the hive mind, but it is a danger when you make contact with it.
All right. So at this point, Psychol, upon attempting to communicate and feeling what it feels, a mixture of emotions comes over myself, and it raises my anxiety a little. Upon
a D7 anxiety point.
It raises my anxiety a little. I'm a little bit more apprehensive, so I'm not quite sure how to make out with this particular situation. I'm a little bit standoffish. I'm starting to feel.
All right. And in that moment of hesitation, you know, this pod has now, it's now kind of settled. The ooze is spreading, but there's kind of silence. The sailors are maybe yelling to each other, and then there's movement. Things start crawling out from inside of this pod. Remember, it's like a tumbleweed. It's coral. It's porous, and crawling out from the center of that come these huge spider, crab, centipede creatures. You're not even sure if any two of them are exactly alike. They're all slightly, subtly different from one another. They start crawling out from the inside. Some of them have tentacles and multiple eyes, and they're just covering the surface of this thing and kind of looking down into the water. Finally, one of them jumps off the side and just splashes into the water and disappears. So you get the feeling maybe these things can't swim, but they're trying to come out of the pod at this point. But what do you guys do? Psychol, do you take action? And Rave, again, you can arrive on the scene anytime you want.
I would first sense, I would hone in on that one particular individual creature and just determine whether or not it is in fact in pain or if it has perished before I take any action.
Sure. No, it's fine. It can't swim, but it doesn't drown either. So it's just sinking. Eventually, maybe the water pressure will crush it. But for right now, it's just sinking, and it's a little confused, but not in any pain.
Okay. All right. So I can't.
Now, the crew of the battleship, they're spooked. All these giant horse and elephant-sized bugs are crawling out of this pod thing, and they're cranking their weapons into position. They're getting ready to open fire on the alien seed pod. So what do you do? Do you take any action, or do you wait to see what happens next?
I kind of want to. I kind of want to get a better sense of what these creatures are after. Not sure if there's any way I can attempt to enter a single individual's mind.
Yeah, you can make
better insight or something.
You can make another mind reading test if you want. Like I said, the individuals are very kind of animalistic, but they do form a hive intelligence, which is hard to read, but you think you probably could if you keep trying.
Yeah.
And if you make your willpower test to not go crazy by spreading your mind across into a hive mind situation.
All right. Well, let's see. Let's roll it one more time.
All right.
17 plus.
So, yeah, again, each time you try, you're going to get a little better at understanding it, but you're not able to make any progress with this attempt. So do make another willpower test, though, as well.
12 plus 14, so 26.
26? Yeah, you're fine. Like I said, you'd have to roll pretty bad. You have a lot of willpower to resist this thing with. So you'd have to roll pretty bad to suffer any real consequence from it. So you're trying to, get into the hive mind, figure out what is going on, and as you're doing that, the sailors have now leveled their guns at the pod, but more creatures are still kind of climbing out from the inside. And as you're watching, some of them have crawled down to the water's edge. The water's all oozy with that slime, and they're kind of putting their claws in and their legs and trying to feel it out. And you see some of them start to change and morph, almost like a turtle. They pull their legs into their body, and there's a shaking, shifting, and then tentacles start to ooze out. And now they slide into the water and are able to maneuver on the water using these tentacles. So it seems like they're adapting to their environment. Some of the centipede-like creatures are growing like flippers and elongating their torso, their primary trunk, into kind of an eel, plesiosaur-like shape. So they're starting to spread into the water. They're taking on these aquatic characteristics, and they're starting to head towards the battleships. And the battleships now are going to open fire, not just on the pod itself, but the individual creatures. So we'll probably roll initiative here, just so we can track it better. So
Okay.
your initiative is going to be a D20. And for our psychic, you have +1 to your initiative.
So with +1, it's 17.
Perfect. How about you, Rave?
What would I be adding for initiative?
Let me look at your sheet quick.
It's the one thing I wasn't sure how to calculate.
I think it should be your agility, which is 3.
Okay.
And if you don't have any other bonus, then just add that +3.
Okay, that would put me at a 22.
All right. So I'm going to roll for our NPCs. All right. So again, Rave, you can enter the scene at this time or anytime you want. So you have the initiative. Do you want to show up now, or do you want to wait another turn and see what happens?
What I want to do, I want to pretty much ready in action.
Mm-hmm.
If anything happens where the ships are in danger, I'm basically trying to swoop in and be the heroic hero. You know how it is.
Absolutely.
Just to save the day.
Okay. So, see, the battleships then, they're going to open fire. Like I said, there's a cruiser and 2 destroyers. There's no actual battleships per se. But they're going to open fire. So the cannons go off. There's this huge concussion. The cannons are very loud. And you see huge pieces of chitin, and these creatures go flying off the side of the floating pod, splashing down into the water. There's this big dead spot now where it's been blown away and blown apart. They're also opening fire with, machine guns, chain guns, everything. They haven't got their rockets lined up for this turn yet. But the green, yellow blood, this ooze of the creatures is coming out all over them. And you could see that the actual structure of that crystal coral thing is bleeding as well. So you think the whole thing is actually an organism. So as they've opened fire, the creatures in the water start to accelerate more. The hive mind is angered, and it's targeting the ships now. So the creatures in the water are making a beeline forward, and they start to attack. The octopus, nautilus-like creatures are pulling themselves up with their tentacles onto the deck.
As they start to get close, a force field starts pushing them back. And at this, you see the flying form of Rave just soar over one of these ships, holding it back.
Perfect.
Holding the monsters back.
So they're going to make a attack against your force field here. Now it's extremely easy to hit your force field, but it's very difficult to damage it. So they've got a 22 to hit, and your dodge then is going to be just 10, I believe, because you have a +0 while the force field is active. So that's big time hit. And then
Well, I was mainly using it as a barrier, not particularly protecting me.
Well, but it's still a barrier protecting the ships, though.
Okay.
Yeah. And we're using your dodge just because it's your force field. That's all.
Okay.
And now, by the book, you actually rolled a toughness, I believe. So yeah, you roll toughness and add 20 to your roll.
I add my toughness to my roll, you said?
Yeah, it's basically a toughness save. So you roll your
that would
20.
put me at a 25.
All right. So the creatures are trying to come up, get at the sailors. They're not able to penetrate your force field at all. They're slamming their tentacles against it, but they're very frustrated. Maybe you even push some of them off the deck and back into the water, and they sploosh down there. And then we're back to, let's see. So that's your action, Rave. So we're back to Psychol. So Psychol, Rave has just arrived on the scene. What's your reaction to his arrival?
Psychol, noticing and sensing Rave, feel a little sense of relief. The anxiety comes down just a little bit, feeling that relief, or at least hopefully a sigh of relief that this is an ally, and think to myself, thank God there's someone else here, not just me. And in that particular time frame, seeing the attack between these creatures on the ships, I want to help the ships as well, and use my keep my range as best as possible, using the mental blast.
All right. So now a mental blast would actually go against basically the hive mind itself, I think. So you'd almost be able to damage all of them at once with a mental blast.
Provided that I can hit.
Yeah. Well, again, this is probably very easy to hit, but difficult to damage, because the hive mind has a pretty strong willpower.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a ranged attack roll. Oh no, I think it's automatic, because on your sheet it says mental blast, and then it has an X for the 2 hit. So it says perception, range, damage 5, resisted by will. So I think that's basically a free hit, actually. Okay. You don't even need to roll to hit them, as long as you have psychic contact, which you do. So I'll roll their willpower here, and they're rolling against a DC 20. Yeah, so he's just beat the willpower, but not quite by full 5. So I believe that's a stun, but it's not a wound. Does that sound correct to you, Rave?
I have no idea.
Okay. Let me double check that. So like I said, I've been reading a ton of different rule sets all week, so I just want to make sure that I'm doing it right. I'm pretty sure that that's correct. If you find it before me, Rave, just let me know. It's just the basic damage test. There it is. So failure. Let's see. Okay, so failure by 1 degree. It's a -1 to further damage, but they're not dazed. So it's the opposite of what I thought. So that's good. Sorry about taking so long with that. I just wanted to make sure I was doing it correctly.
No problem.
What
Yeah.
what was the result?
So you've inflicted damage on them. So describe on their mind. Describe what that. I would say what it looks like, but I don't know if there's a visual. You're successful anyways in your psychic attack. Do you want to describe that?
Yes. So as I charge and loose my mental blast, a mental blast consists of all of the supercharged and magnified negative energy and negative emotions that I can think of, and blast it towards them, causing sorrowful pain towards them. And as it does, it almost causes like a bubbling of the brains, it almost causing them to swell whenever they are affected by a mental blast.
All right, that's most excellent, Psychol. So yeah, you're getting closer to destroying the hive mind of these creatures, which is the only mind they have, really. So that's your turn, Psychol, and we're back to the top, which is Rave.
Rave is going to attempt to communicate using the communicate mind to Psychol. And would I be able to amplify the mind blast with my communication band control?
Absolutely.
Because that's how I'm doing the mind contact.
Yeah, we can definitely do that.
I basically tell him, I don't have the expertise or control, but I think I can increase your own force.
All right, whatever it takes. I've seen enough of these creatures to know that
there are far more to deal with than even this group. And with that, I open up my mind to show you an image of that space creature.
in seeing the mental image, I am absolutely floored and shocked. And in that moment, Psychol kind of reaffirms his drive and kind of focuses a little clearer on what's at stake here and what we're all dealing with, and focuses is ready to focus the next attack on the hive mind here for the next turn.
Just so you know, I do have I don't know if it's a mistake in the book or something. One of the listed options for advantage was daze and all-out attack. Mm-hmm. I have both.
Okay.
So I don't know if that would correspond over to his character or not, since I'm basically being his PA system.
Well, there's two options in the book. There's team checks and then team attacks. Team checks is on, at least in my book, it's on page 16. Team attacks is on page 199, at least in my book.
Okay.
So let me
I'm going to go with whatever you say. I'm just telling you what I got, hoping it'll help. Because I can't think of much more of an all-out attack than trying this stunt.
Yeah, it looks like...
but I am going to keep the force field up. and hope that the Marines are smart enough not to shoot my defenses.
Oh yeah, that's no problem at all.
I figured after the first bombardment that they would realize it's not a good idea. But yeah, that's what I'm primarily doing. And to be honest with you, to focus my power even more, he would probably try to land on one of the ships, maybe the one that he was protecting the most, so that he's not expending that energy in any other way.
Mm-hmm.
I guess you could say he's grounding himself.
Sounds good. I'm just reading the team attack here. So I don't think the team attack would work on this type of test, but let me check the team check rather than team attack. There's two different mechanical ways of combining your powers like that. Yeah, so the team check would work just fine. So Rave, make a test against a DC of 10, a power test. So your power is, let's see your sheet here.
My environmental communication is already a 12.
All right, so roll a d20 and add 12.
Hold on. That would be a 25.
All right, so that's easy math because every degree, which is 5 points over the base, which in this case is a DC of 10, gives a plus. I'm not sure if it's a +1 or +2. It's +2. Gives a +2 to Psychol's test. So you beat a 10 by 3 degrees, so it's a +6 to Psychol's mental blast. So Psychol, when you guys are combining, you're going to be the primary attacker, but Rave with that test is giving you a +6 onto the damage.
I feel powerful.
Perfect.
And also with that, your mind may be expanded, but you're also picking up all the radio chatter of everything around you because you're linked with Rave's mind.
Oh. So that's
what he hears all the time.
So that is going to be on Psychol's turn, but our monsters and soldiers have their turn before that. Because Rave, you're essentially delaying until Psychol's turn so you can work together.
Well, I'm also maintaining the force field because when that kind of be a free action.
Yeah, I believe with your build, it is a free action, yes. So that's no problem. And the sailors are continuing to fire. They're pretty spooked at this point. They're actually with their next volley, they're only able to do very superficial damage this time. So more of the creatures are being killed, some of the corals being destroyed, but pretty superficial as they're firing their cannons and machine guns again. They're spooked. The creatures, for their part, are sensing the psychic attack of Psychol, and they're redirecting. They're pissed off at the battleships, but they think you're a much bigger threat, Psychol. So they're redirecting, and these sea serpents and krakens and various insectoid monsters are swimming towards Psychol. Now, Psychol, you're hovering above the water as they're coming up, and they're trying to slash and bite and claw and rip you with their tentacles. You're able to easily avoid that by flying through the air. Do you want to describe what that looks like at all, or are you just kind of levitating above them?
With each attack, my telekinetic levitation is allowing me to kind of sense where each of the claws and the bites and everything like that are coming in. So I'm able to swoop in and out and around and above, just out of reach, while maintaining the range that I need for a mental blast as I prepare my next one.
Perfect. And again, you don't need to roll to hit for your mental blast, but we will make a willpower test to resist it. And that's a critical fail. All right, so the hive mind is not doing so hot at this point. So I believe he's rolling against, because your power is 5, you're getting a +6, so that makes 11, and the base bonus for an attack test is +15. So that's 26. He's rolled a natural 1, and so that is 2. I think that's just barely 3 degrees that you've beat him by there. So he's definitely dazed. I think he's minus. So he's taken 3 wounds. He already had 1 wound. So he's at -4 wounds, plus he's dazed, but he is still conscious and alive. But he's on the brink of death. The hive mind is what I mean by he. So describe what that looks like psychically. You're flying above this thrashing maelstrom of tentacles and teeth and claws. You're forcing your mind into the hive mind, the consciousness of this alien, and describe what that looks or feels like as you're pummeling this hive mind. You are driving it insane.
So the way that attack this time around looks like, because of the link between Rave and I, it almost is like one linked triangle of ethereal light beaming towards the entity and cutting through with these sword-like mental blades that just cut through and begin to cause uncontrollable thrashing as it reacts to the mental assault. And again, the swelling. These creatures are being simultaneously affected, and so every creature, everything that's morphing around, and it begins to convulse and swell around the head, almost swelling to the size of almost double the size of what it originally was, as the mental capacities of these entities are surging with incredible pain from the amplified attack.
All right, perfect. Now we're going to go back to Rave. So Rave, what are you doing? You're obviously helping him to dissect the mind of this alien beast. What do you do on this turn?
Okay, how are the individuals of that group mind doing? You told us that the whole is in great pain, but are they still trying to attack the ships or him?
They're trying to attack Cykal at this point. They know he's the real threat, and like I said, they're trying to come up out of the water, but they can't fly. They can't quite reach him with their attacks, or they haven't yet. Now remember, these things may be able to evolve very quickly.
And that's the reason why I'm concerned and wanted to find out whether the ships are in danger or he's in danger.
Cycle's probably in the most danger at this point.
Okay. Would I be able to... Now, are the creatures pretty much not trying to get through the shield anymore?
Yeah, they've pretty much abandoned the ship. They're all trying to get to Cycle. They're trying to climb over each other and form
Okay.
a bridge of alien bugs, like a raft of ants, and
would
reach
I-
up to get him.
Be able to split what I'm doing with my energy control?
Yeah, I'd allow that, but you'd have to do like half ranks of each, or however you want to divide it. So if you
Okay.
have 20 ranks, you could spend 15 over here and 5 over there, however you want to do it.
Basically, what I'm wanting to do is 10 in an energy construct around him.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, it gets the equivalent of technicolored space armor from the way Green Lanterns do it.
Nice.
And I want to use 1 point of my illusion to make the illusion that the barrier is still there for the ships.
Absolutely. I'll allow that. So how many points are you putting on him? Just 10 or all 20?
Well, I'm actually using a well, I could do that.
Yeah, you might as well put 20 on him and then keep the illusion going over there. I'd allow that.
Well, I didn't know I can use separate powers in the same turn.
Well, technically, either you're not allowed to, or you have to take some kind of feat, I believe, some kind of advantage, they call it. But I'm pretty sure it would be very cheap to do that, so I don't mind. You know.
Okay. Well, then I will go ahead and give him the force field. I'll put 1 in the illusion of the force field staying up, and the rest will stay on the communication band increase.
Okay. Now you can't, I'm trying to think, because you can maintain a power as a free action, but you can't redirect one as a free action. So I'll allow you to make the field and the illusion at the same time, but you can't also do the mental attack. You can't do all 3 at once.
Okay.
But next turn, once you've redirected the force field, then it's a free action to keep it, and then next turn after, you can do all 3.
Okay, I just didn't know because energy control is the main power for both the illusion and the construct.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with doing them both at the same time. It's just you can't redirect them at the same time. You know what I mean? The force field, you can maintain it once it's directed, but to redirect it, that requires the action.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and maintain the increase that I'm doing for the communication band control. I'm going to let the force field on the ship completely go and activate. Would I be able to split my force field?
Yeah. But the communication power, though, that one, you can't maintain. That does require an action.
Oh, okay.
It's the force field that you can maintain as a free action. You can't maintain an attack as a free action, though. Or an aid another in this case.
Okay. I guess create the illusion and create the force field.
Perfect.
So you get to see kinetic this like light armor start to surround you, and it looks like something out of a mecha movie.
Ooh, it tickles.
Nice.
It's both translucent and multicolored at the same time. You probably feel like you're in a weird, trippy.
Badass. Now, Cycle, let me get you to make a test for me here. I think make a mental awareness test, I believe. Or telepathy. Make telepathy. You have more ranks and it's close enough. So D20 plus 5 because you got 5 telepathy.
I rolled a natural 20 this time.
Amazing. Okay. So, again, this thrashing sea of mouths and tentacles, these creatures trying to reach up at you. You've inflicted huge psychological damage to that hive mind. And, as Rave is covering you with this force field, this rainbow armor, you're getting ready for the final stab into the mind of this alien entity. And then suddenly it seems to lose focus. The creatures start to disperse and scatter. They start to panic and flee. And you feel that the hive mind is gone. But with your telepathy, with that test you just made, you're able to detect a hint, a trace of its presence. Looking up, you realize that the mothership, the mother organism, has cut off the creatures on the planet from the hive mind. It's abandoned them, and it is fleeing into space. So the creatures here now are undirected. They've become just pure animals. They have no sapient intelligence behind them anymore. The sapient mother organism is getting out of dodge. So it's running away from you, Psychol, because you can't target it at this range. So this is the only way for it to be safe, is to cut them off from itself psychically. So what do you guys do? Do you pursue the mother organism and finish it off? Because it's a wounded animal at this point. That's why it's taking this desperate measure. Or do you stay and try to do some cleanup with the creatures that it's spewed all over the earth? What do you guys do?
I'm thinking that in this particular case, I would focus my energies towards the immediate, I guess not really a direct threat now, on the creatures that have been abandoned here, using the using telekinesis. I would want to round up these
Rave
creatures
kind of
onto.
interrupts you as you're starting to try to do that. Would I be able to open up the channels of communication that the creature had been using to help manipulate them to the point that it would cause them all to come back to their mother pods because they think it's the only safe place?
Yeah, if you want to take over the hive mind or become a new hive mind control these creatures, that's very easy. They're designed to be mind controlled.
Right.
So it's very easy to mind control them. So yeah, you could try to do that.
I just wasn't sure if he would have been able to control them all.
You
Because
might
I'm
not.
not talking this pod.
Yeah.
I'm talking all of them.
That depends on how well you roll, how powerful you are. You could try to. So yeah, if you want to verbally tell Psychol, hey man,
I'm doing this telepathically.
Or telepathically, yeah.
I've got it.
It is Psychol's turn right now. But yeah, you can tell him, hey, let's do this. But it is his mechanically, it's his action. But you can, you talking as a free action, absolutely, even psychically.
I'm just trying to get it so that we don't end up causing a bigger mess than we can handle, because I have no idea what these things can do eventually.
Yeah.
As far as I know, they may form of the big one.
That would make a certain amount of sense, yeah. So what's Psychol's reaction to that?
What's my reaction to what? Nothing's been said to me.
Well, no, he's Rave is communicating with you telepathically. He's telling you that we can mind control them.
You can mind control these?
I can open the I can open the doors, but I don't know how to do the call. I'm just the network. You
I've
gotta
never
be the
tried
voice
this.
man. I'm not
I
the
can-
lead singer in this band.
I can talk telepathically, but to control, I have never tried that before. I don't believe I have that gift.
Out of character, if you're doing the psychic pre-gen, you do.
Well, I mean, by the book, the pre-gen actually doesn't have mind control. It has it as an option, as an optional power. But I'll leave that up to you, Psychol. If you want, we can switch it up on the fly. If you think your character could do it, and if you don't think your character could do it, then that's fine. It's your character.
Yeah, I chose to follow the pre-gen, and in doing so, leaving out mind control. If I had taken mind control, that would have left out all the other fun powers there. So
Yep.
I'm going to decline. I'm sorry, but it's not within my capacity. I appreciate what you're attempting to accomplish, but it seems to be beyond any measures that I possess.
Okay.
Well, it is still your turn then, Psychol. So do you want to use your telekinesis, like you said, and scoop all these things back towards that pod?
Yes, I would be. I'd be working towards corralling this immediate threat, since I don't know enough about them, and I want to keep them as close together as possible and confined as possible in one spot until we can figure out more about them. And so,
sounds good. So make a move object test. So you have +8. Roll your d20 and add 8.
That's a 12.
A 12. You're not able to make a huge amount of progress. There's a lot of them. They're very big. They're in the water. They're moving. So you're able to move, quite a few of them, but there's so many that it's a drop in the bucket at that point. So maybe 1/4 of them actually with that, because I'm thinking it's around a DC 30 to get them all corralled, and you got a 12 there, so pretty close to a quarter, maybe a third, but there's still a lot of them moving around outside.
Okay.
And then we're back to Rave. So it's your turn, Rave. Now I'll also mention, that the mother organism it's leaving. And it's going to be very hard to track it down in space. Space is very big. And this creature obviously can move very fast. So if you let it get a head start, it's going to be almost impossible to track it down. But at the same time, these things are causing chaos. They're eating people over in Ghana. They're maybe taking root in the Arabian desert. So there are threats on Earth, but there's also the creature escaping. So they're both very valid targets. Rave, it's your turn. What do you do?
Would I be able to kind of shape the force field around the general area that they're in and slowly reduce it?
Yeah, I'd allow that. That sounds pretty plausible. So I'd think a force field test then. So D20 plus 20. And we've already got 12 from what Psychol accomplished. So
well, that's my best thing. So I'm actually got a 31.
All right. So even without Psychol's help, you probably would have been able to corral all of them. With his help, he's got a third of them already. So between the two of you, mostly Rave, you're able to corral all of them, get them contained in this force field. Their whole coral sphere, their seed pod, the whole thing, the ooze, all of it you have now contained in your force field, Rave. So I'm going to see if they can break. They're going to try to break out. I will. Actually, that's you that has to roll that as a save. So make another test to see if you can contain them as they're trying to break out. This should be pretty easy to contain them.
Am I using force field or am I using toughness?
Force field, yeah.
That would put me at a total of 34.
Yeah, so you're easily able to contain them. They're trying to use their claws, their mandibles. You think some of them are spitting acid, but it doesn't matter. Your force field keeps them all well intact. So what do you do with them? It is, I believe it is your turn, Rave, I think.
Well, I just trapped them, didn't I? So that would put it back.
I thought that was a delayed action, though.
No.
Oh, okay. Well, okay, so they're contained. So technically we're back to you then, Cycle. Excuse me.
All right. Well,
if it matters. I mean, they're all contained at this point.
Yeah. I want to get in touch with these creatures and really see what drives them, what their motive is. And now that they're no longer a part of the hive mind, I want to see if I can finally communicate better with them. Just targeting a single individual who's not quite a blithering mess after I psychically annihilated half of their minds.
Well, individually, they're not really sapient. They're like animals. They're like dogs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I want to see if I can communicate and kind of, is it... I want to read their mind. That's what it is. I want to communicate mentally and understand them, their feeling, what their actual feeling is. Because obviously, with the hive mind, they were being driven to be lustful and to spread. I want to see if that's still the case.
It pretty much is. Yeah, it's like reading the mind of a dog or an animal. They're very instinctual, and yeah, they're hungry and they want to propagate. There's not a whole lot else going on in there. They're smart animals, but they're not as smart as a dumb person, you know.
All right. So in this particular turn, with observing that particular feeling, I am letting Rave know, hey, these creatures, they're sentient, but they're just barely sentient. The instinctual creatures. They follow the base paths that most of our animals here follow. If we're to round them up, we probably should use the most humane methods possible, rather than cause their extinction. Sure, they're a foreign invader from another planet, from another galaxy, even possibly. But I think we need to find a better method of their disposal than executing them here.
You have a long-term solution idea?
I don't. I'm wondering if maybe in your travels, stranger, if you might have an idea. I saw that you came from the cosmos when you arrived here. I'm wondering if something that comes naturally, if you're able to maybe assist in helping these creatures make a home, or helping to transport them elsewhere that is not invasive here.
So Psychol seems to think Rave is an alien who just happens to like skinny jeans.
Well, he's never actually seen the skinny jeans. He's only seen me in
Oh yeah, energy form.
He looks at you and says, I do light and sound. You do my stuff.
What?
What in the hell am I supposed to do with this?
Well, the planet Venus has an atmosphere. You could throw them onto Venus and see if they take root there.
Hey, interstellar travel is not in Rave's toolbox. At least I don't think 7th Flight will do that.
All right. Well, a fair point there, friend.
Very fair.
Then my next suggestion, since we have these fantastic ships here, perchance you might like with the navigators and see if they have any solution.
What, the battleships?
Yes.
Actually, I'll do one step better. I will use the little hack that I used before. Send a picture of the force field to NASA and ask, what am I supposed to do with these? ET go home? No home.
Yeah.
And that is exactly how he sends it.
I think they would probably just want you to like find an active volcano and throw them in because they're extremely aggressive, very large, invasive organisms. And in fact, the other two pods that have touched down, the one in Ghana and the one in the Sahara Desert, have begun spreading. They're growing this toxic jungle. The coral is spreading across the ground. The creatures are running around eating people and
I feel bad about this to begin with, but we'll see what it does. I hope they don't have EVA at the moment. There is one place I know I could put them for a temporary solution.
Very well.
You mind helping push? This is a lot of mass.
Right behind you.
Although I don't think you could go, maybe. With that, I'm going to increase the size of the backpack on your EVA suit type thing. And instantly you have this huge container on your back.
Remember, it's like the size of an office building. This this thing. And the creatures, they're like horse and elephant size. They're very big. Some of the like serpentine.
No, I'm talking about his suit.
I know, but I'm just saying, if you want to contain all of these creatures, it's a little more than a backpack. But yes, he can definitely have.
What I'm doing is I'm giving him an air supply.
Oh.
Because I don't want to suffocate this person who's trying to help me when we get into upper atmo.
Sorry, I thought you were like gonna fly them.
Oh no!
I thought you were delivering these guys holding and making me carry everything.
All right.
I just didn't think I would be able to move object that much mass very easily.
Between the two of you, I'd say that you can move them.
But yeah, I figured he might like to breathe.
It's good. I like breathing. He probably does too.
And away we go.
All right. So dragging this huge coral enclosure up, containing it in your force field, it's probably like at least half full of water. It's slime and these creatures that are still trying to strain and get out, but really they're not able to break through that field.
The other question I ask are my friend here. Will the pod be able to either A, re-land, or B, fly? No, my character doesn't have the mental equipment to probe their mind.
Oh. Well, and they don't have much of a mind to probe at this point. I mean, the creatures really don't know the answer to that themselves. You can probably
I'm asking my psychic mind screwing friend if he would mind making sure that this isn't going to be a completely wasted trip.
We'll find out in the sequel.
All right. You're pretty sure that the pod that cannot move by itself. It seemed to just be spewed out by the mothership. But I mean, you're not positive. That's a guess, so you're not sure.
I just didn't know if it had its own mind that it could find out how its propulsion systems work.
Yeah, you're not sure. It doesn't really have a mind to read at this point.
Okay. If it doesn't feel motivation to land, we should be fine in just dumping it up there.
It's reasonable to assume. So
and then NASA can deal with cleanup.
Yes. poor NASA.
Hey, they needed a budget increase anyway. I would say alien creatures that are not dead floating above our planet, potentially being able to survive re-entry, might be a good motivator for Trump's space army program.
This is the first mission of Space Force, is to get rid of these aliens.
We'll build a force field around it. It'll be the greatest.
Yeah. We'll build a force field and make the aliens pay for it. All right, so you're dragging up this huge crystalline coral tumbleweed construct into space. You turn off the force field and you just let it float there, orbiting the Earth. All the water, of course, as soon as the force field is dropped, crystallizes or vaporizes. But it's just floating there. The aliens don't seem to mind the vacuum of space too much. They're still kind of looking around, trying to figure out how to spread and propagate, but there's nowhere for them to go.
The question I have are, do they apparently look like they can move at all?
They can move on the surface of the crystalline entity, but they can't fly through space, no.
I just wanted to make sure before we left.
Sounds good.
The last thing we need is more of them raining down on us.
Yes. So what do you guys do? Do you go down, try to contain these toxic jungles spreading across the Earth, or do you go in pursuit of the mothership that you just scared off and try to finish it so it cannot return or cannot seed other planets? What do you do?
Brave looks at it as this point. If there's nothing to come back to, why save another race? Not our problem. At least we gave it a nasty headache.
What's Cycle's reaction to that?
It's very true. And I'm going to agree. I'm going to agree.
Let the scrolls deal with it. They'll figure it out.
As Brave
this
says,
looks like a job for a super scroll.
Defending the Earth pushes his boundary on responsibilities. A galaxy-wide protection force? Way above that pay grade.
All right.
We also don't have the means necessary to pursue. I'm going to run out of air at some point, and I don't think we're equipped enough for that. So I'm ready. I'll be ready for it the next time. We'll come up with a contingency plan, friend.
When we decide that we're going to Ghana, at that point, you somehow feel someone grab you, although it's probably like in Ghost, where you're feeling someone reach pretty much into you. And with that, I have actually in this form teleportation 3.
Mm-hmm.
We're beaming to where probably Ghana, because they've got the bigger problem because it's near a population center.
Yeah. All right. So
And you hear mentally, beam us up, Scotty.
All right. So you guys materialize in the skies over Ghana, the lush African jungle kingdom. You can see the blue skies, huge contrast from the blackness of space where you just were one moment ago. And you can see this blight, this blot on the landscape, this tumbleweed-like construct growing and spreading its tendrils across the landscape. It's huge. It was the size of an office building, but it's grown to perhaps 10 times that as it sprawls out. And crawling out from this mass of vines and thorns are these huge centipede beetle creatures, these elephantine monsters, and they're running over the landscape. Buildings are being crushed by the vines. People are being devoured by the giant ant-like creatures. But it is a scene of chaos. The hive mind is gone. It is uncontrolled growth and hunger and fury. So it's something that will be difficult to contain, but it's very possible to contain.
With this, Brave says to you, I don't know if we've got enough juice for this, but I would say at least try to call them home. Not necessarily control them, but if they think the best feeding ground is back where they came from, or play on that other instinct that I'm not going to talk about, maybe we could get them to go back home. And at least that would be a smaller area for us to try to deal with.
That sounds great. That gave me an idea. Why don't we send out try to determine the mating call, or the way that these creatures mate, send out a communication out in space so that they veer out that way and return from whence they came.
You're not sure that any of these creatures can actually fly, though.
Okay. What we're gonna do is, as I start to do the web of communication band, you hear adult entertainment music pop on.
Oh my god! What about some Barry Manilow or something, man?
Definitely the weirdest one you've ever read.
What was that gimmick in The Simpsons where they had the Barry Manilow and they put it on the ground and the speakers and all the snakes came?
Yeah.
We're doing that, but with the Zerg here.
We're doing the Pied Piper deal here.
Yeah.
Well, Rafe has taunt, so that's just his nature.
That's fair. So is that what you're trying to do, Psycall? You're trying to recall them into the hive structure?
I'm trying to, what my thoughts are is I'm attempting to get them to hear a amplified mating call, and since we know that they have the ability to evolve, I want to see if it's going to enable them to grow the ability to fly, we're going to create a bit of a monster here, but at least it'll get them off of our planet.
Yeah. You're pretty sure that they can't fly, or you haven't seen any that can, at least.
Well,
Maybe.
what I was mainly talking about is if we got them contained, we might be able to do the same thing that we did before.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get them to come back to a central point.
Okay.
And then basically try to shove it back up into space. And at least
All right,
the Sahara Desert.
Let's give that a try.
All right. So make that telepathy test then, Psychol, if that's what you're trying to do. Again, you
And
get
I need
5.
to do my communication band.
Yeah. So both of you roll. Rave, you're assisting. So for every degree of success, gets +2 onto Psychol's roll.
Oh. I'm not sure how good of help that is, but that's a total of 26.
That's big time help. That's because your DC is 10. Every 5 past 10 is a degree of success. So you are 3, maybe 4 past, in fact.
2.
So,
26.
Yeah, but you were only looking for a 10. So you
that's
beat that
so
by,
bad.
It's a 3.
So
yeah,
you got to
beat
roll
that.
a +6.
Yeah, big time. +6. What was your roll, Psychol?
I've rolled a 15 plus my 5. That's a 20.
All right, so there's a 20 +6, so 26 total. So I'd say you're able to get them to stop expanding, and they're kind of returning to base, but they're not as tightly clustered as you might like. So with that, so you can take another turn to try to pull them in closer, or you could just try to make your force field a little wider than you might like. Rave, I'll also mention to you, because you have that radio sense, you could hear the radio waves, that you could detect all this radio chatter, and the U.S. military is fueling some nuclear strike-capable bombers. And they're considering a nuclear option to take care of these alien infestations. So I don't know if you want to do anything with that information.
With that, can I tell if they realized what happened in the sea before?
Yeah, they're still receiving the transmissions from the Ghanese battleships. So they know that you stopped one infestation, but they're concerned about these other 2. Big
right
time.
right now, they hear, if you have to, this is too close to a residential and civilian area. The political fallout will be far less than the nuclear fallout that would occur. We are attempting to control this situation. If we fail, there's always time. The Sahara, better choice for your decision.
All right. So they're directing the bombers towards the Sahara Desert infestation then.
Well, I'm assuming that the population of that area is not very big.
There's no population. It's the middle of the desert.
So we'll have a very nice glass monument.
And a big cloud of radiation, but again, the desert's so big, maybe it wouldn't be that bad.
Hey, the people around it would probably like that a hell of a lot more than whatever these critters are.
That's for sure.
If you have a choice between a nuclear wasteland a few thousand miles from you, or those coming into your house, I know I wouldn't want that guest.
Well, it's kind of the choice between being eaten or getting cancer. And those are both bad, but I guess I'd rather have cancer than be eaten by a monster. I guess.
Well, I'm assuming that they would do it in a controlled way that minimized radiation signatures and then whatever.
They'll do the best that they can do.
Maybe there are some people who can control radiation. Who knows?
Someone
Gotta
call
hope.
Captain Adam. Captain Adam. Someone get this man his own movie, quick.
But anyway.
So you've got them pretty close to the pod, not as close as you'd like. What do? Do you try the telepathy again, or do you try a big force field?
Right now, I ask, do you want another boost, or do I try to do this? Because that's the biggest. The last one was far bigger than I ever thought I could do.
Well, let's see what you can do again, then, friend.
Well, what I was saying
let's keep pouring it on. Let's pour it on.
Or do you want
we're almost there. We're getting there.
Do you want to try one more boost of your abilities, or do you want me to try to grab them?
Let's try to drive them all into place again.
Good. So roll again, boys. Get the telepathy and the boost.
Well, this time I only rolled a 20, so you get a +4 at least.
That's still +4.
And I rolled a 19.
All right, 19 +4 from Rave, +5 from your power. So that's well into the threshold to get them all very tightly clustered. So they're all now crawling over the sphere, the seed pod, this huge coral vine thing. They're tightly packed. So, Rave, you're putting your force field over them. That's right?
Okay. I'm going to try to do the force field. And by now, I think I would get a sense of the capabilities of my friend here, which also has force field.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start mine, and hopefully theirs will reinforce, because I'm only at a 25. My luck's got to run out sometime.
All right. So yeah, you guys can do that same type of assisted roll if you want.
I would probably say that would probably be the best at this point to make sure that we get them all.
Yeah.
So I'm giving you a 25 boost to your telekinetic force field.
Okay.
So did you say you rolled 25, Rave?
I rolled a 25.
Okay. So that's +6 then.
I rolled a 14.
And you've got, is that 14 total?
That's 14 without any bonuses.
So +6 from Rave, and then your telekinetic field is +12. So that's 14 plus 18. So again, well into that super heroic range. So you're able to get the force field around the whole sprawling forest, this toxic jungle, and crush it into a ball and just crush them all together into a manageable sphere. And again, pull that up, maybe slam it into the one that's already in space and let them just chill up there.
I access the network the way I have. I'm assuming by now they wouldn't mind a call from me, sure, even though this is probably the most high secure hack they've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want us to try this with the last one before you press the button?
I thought you already told them to drop the bomb.
Well, we start. But how fast is a jet? And where are they coming from?
Well,
and how long is this taking us?
Well, that's fair. I'll leave it up to you guys if you want to. If you want to go down and do the third locale, that's fine. Or if you want the, I love the idea of you guys getting up in space and you just see the A-bomb go off in the desert. You're watching it go off from orbit. But if you want to contact them, you certainly can. It'll be a lot of strain and time, but it's something that between the two of you can achieve.
What I'll do is I start to contact and we see the bomb.
All right. So,
well, I didn't know how long this was going to take.
That's fair.
And the last thing I wanted was some of the critters to get away.
That's fair.
And it was the U.S. government that did it, not me.
And we wanted to minimize casualties, so I think we've done a job well done.
All right. Now, what do you do with this floating alien hive? You've got this alien hive in orbit.
The other one, so they aren't quite so lonely.
Yeah.
And then I mark a beacon of some type so that NASA can read where it is.
Mm-hmm.
And it says, "You are welcome for the financial support that this will bring."
Okay, you're just going to leave it in orbit.
Let God sort them out.
All right, sounds good.
Technically, we haven't killed them.
So do you guys want to epilogue? What do you think happens after the fact? What becomes of Rave and Cycle? Are their reputations improved now that they've saved the Earth? Does this floating hive come back to Earth? Do they end up nuking it or pushing it into space? Does the mothership ever return? What do you guys think? What's a good epilogue?
Well, that's what I thought you were going to derive from all of our actions.
I could do it.
I think you need to go first.
Who, me?
No, Tom.
Tom. Yeah, if you
that
want,
way I
if
can
you
fill in the pieces.
Yeah, if you want to epilogue, go for it. If you don't want to, that's fine too.
No, I can't. I have got nothing.
Okay, what do you think, Rave?
Rave proceeds to go back towards home. At this point, he's probably exhausted.
Yeah.
And lands. And at that point, the Secret Service has determined that he is a great threat. And they try to capture him. And now he's on the run, doing his raves quite illegally to not only support the Warlocks, but now himself.
All right. So yeah, Rave, I guess, is on the run from the U.S. I'm imagining like most of the world looks at you guys as big time heroes now, especially in Ghana. Like they were worried they were going to get nuked, and you guys saved them from that. So in Ghana, you guys are big time heroes now. You're the heroes of Ghana, and they've like invited you to come and live in Ghana and hobnob with the prince and the king of Ghana and enjoy all the fruits of that great African nation. Maybe over in, closer to the Middle East, they're not quite as happy because they got that A-bomb dropped near to them. And there are rumors that some of the creatures survived and are now irradiated and digging through the sands of the Sahara like great dune worms. But those are probably just rumors, overactive imagination. In space, I'm imagining that hive floating there, slowly growing, developing its own hive intelligence. And I could see a whole nother adventure about that when the hive becomes sapient, when its mind starts to reach out to the people of Earth to join the hive. But I think that would be an excellent, as you say, sequel episode, Tom. So unless you guys have anything further to add, I think that's a good capstone on this adventure. What do you think?
I think that was wonderful.
All right, great. So, do you guys have anything to plug before we go off YouTube? Any?
No, but I was going to say that after this particular ordeal, probably exchanging information, getting to know one another, probably would also be a wise epilogue finale to add as well, because I found an ally in someone, and people don't tolerate psychol very well, so being able to work with
There
someone.
is one slight side effect. Now, Rave has a little bit of mental instability he never recognized before.
I rubbed off on you.
All right, sounds good. So thank you guys so much for playing. I had a blast. I've been wanting to run this adventure for quite a while. The psychic PC fit perfectly. Loved it. And yeah, we'll sign off YouTube now. So thanks our viewing audience. We had one viewer during the broadcast. And thank you, one viewer. I'll probably never get another one on this video, but it's on YouTube anyway.